Song Talk Radio with Michael, Neil, Phil, and the gang.
Wow. Welcome to Song Talk Radio. This is episode 292. This is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me are the philosophical members of the Song Talk Radio action team. We have Fatalism Phil.
I thought, therefore I was, but I'm not anymore because I'm not sure.
Why?
Oh, you're messing with my head, man.
The answer to why is because. Anyway, we have Metaphysical Michael.
Ah, but of course, in body and in spirit.
Body and soul. All right. And during the show, send in your comments and questions to at Song Talk Radio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Feedback at songtalk.ca for the good old-fashioned email, and we'll share your thoughts with the audience. Please visit us at songtalk.ca and find out how you can be a guest on the show. Tonight, we have Steve Koven. Steve Koven is a composer, performer, producer, and educator. He has one of the longest-standing trios in Canada, performing, touring, and recording together for over 26 years. Aside from performing and recording with his trio, the Steve Koven Trio, Steve has other recording projects such as the Koven Collective, Koven in Law, and Laser Susan. Welcome to the show, Steve.
So good to be here.
Hey, Steve.
This is so cozy.
So can you tell us?
It is snug, isn't it?
Can you tell us about these other projects? So the Steve Koven Trio, I've seen some YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Steve Koven Trio is instrumental jazz, piano, bass, and drums, right?
Right.
So what are the other projects you got going?
The Koven Collective is the same. It's piano, bass, and drums, along with a lot of post-production work done to it. Other instruments such as, bringing in cello players and guitar players, etc. Laser Susan is a collective of a bunch of non-musicians that are musicians. And we used to get together every week and improvise and record all the improvisations, and then we created 3 CDs out of it, and that band's been around for maybe about 15 years.
Wow.
Is it the same members, or
no? It's
so
all
they keep
different.
Getting too good at the instrument, and you got to
the Laser Susan actually started off with a core, and then it underwent a lot of different changes.
So wait a minute, you do a bunch of improvisations, and then you build songs based on the improvisations, or you keep pieces of improvs, or
you extract sections of the improvisation and make that into a song, and then add and layer on top of it with production.
Now, what's the structure of your improvisation? Do you have any sort of structure, or is it a total free-for-all?
It's free-for-all.
Completely? Like not even...
we don't talk about keys, we don't talk about grooves. It really...
Does someone lead it, or like how does it start? How do you...
Somebody starts, or everybody starts.
Wow.
So it's very free.
Free is a horrible term anyways, because we're bringing what we already have to it. Yeah. So it's not that free, but it's spontaneous.
Right.
It's spontaneous composition.
But as the improv progresses, people sort of get in line, so to speak. Like
it molds.
It molds. But does it sort of coalesce and come together in a way that it maybe doesn't when it's first starting out?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's what... Sorry?
I was going to say, is it a performing band, or is this something like... Do
Both.
People come see... Yeah, so it is...
Yeah, we performed
public.
a lot.
You do it for the public, yeah.
A lot of it's been, in closed doors, behind closed doors, in my basement, wherever, at a party. And we just pull out a Zoom recorder and document, and then extract and edit and create.
That's pretty cool.
It is really cool. And the thing that's really cool about it is that I said they're all non-musicians, meaning they're non-professionals.
Okay.
I'm the only one in the band that is a professional musician.
Right.
The rest have other jobs, but this is their medicine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
And does a certain type of person work better in this situation than another, or
always,
or does the situation create the people?
No, I think it starts with the people.
Yeah.
It always starts with the people. I don't really care what band you're in. If the people aren't working, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have too much ego, for example, then that person's not going to be listening, or too self-conscious, so it won't have the flow, won't have the spontaneity.
Right.
So important.
That's the thing about playing in a band, is that it's all about chemistry. And someone walks in and somehow you just know they're right. I don't know what it is. It's a weird thing. And it's someone comes in and it's magic. And then you get someone else, if they leave and someone else comes in, they can be really good, but it just doesn't have that magic. It's a very subtle thing,
Yeah. One of the greatest things to do with a band is to go out and have drinks or a meal together before you play a gig or rehearse or create.
Right.
Because then the humanistic side of the music is already there. It's just now we put on our instruments and we go. But I mean, if one person or two people aren't gelling, it's not going to happen, man.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. So the stuff, you've given us 2 songs that we're going to listen to. We have lots to talk about beforehand. Did these come out of these jams?
The songs we're listening to, going to be listening to on the show? No, those are composed in my basement by myself.
Right.
But in a sense, it comes out of a jam because I compose. One of my main processes for composing is improvisation-based music.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just explore and explore and explore and try to be attentive to what I'm doing and aware. So if something snaps out of the creation, and then I'll
Are you always recording?
I record most of my material when I'm improvising.
Yeah.
But when I'm composing, no, it's just a lot of repetition.
Right.
Just going over ideas.
So what's your process? How are you generating ideas, like while you're working on your own? Are you like just playing and improvising stuff and recording that and then going back over it and see if there's any gems or anything?
Playing it, not recording it.
Okay.
Just playing it, and I'm at my piano a lot every day.
Right.
And I improvise a lot. So it's more about just putting in the time, and then something might come out of it. Or I might have an intention before improvising. Like I'm going to play only on the upper register of the piano and see what comes out of that as opposed to the traditional way of approaching an instrument.
Right.
So change it up and see, that helps the process too. But it is improvised based.
Right.
I don't have a pen and paper, and I'm not working with any serialism or anything like that. I'm just creating on the spot.
Right.
And trying to be aware of what I'm working with.
Do you get to a certain point where you found like the focal point of a song or the main section, and then do you come back to it later and develop it further, or is it usually completed within one sitting?
No, it takes me a couple of years.
Okay.
I might have a song that's working, but I'll spend a lot of time. A couple of years might be too much, but a long time going over that song and trying it in different time signatures and different stylistic approach.
Oh, really?
Different arrangements. Yeah, so the original idea might not be the final product. Sometimes it is, but sometimes the final product comes from the original idea and evolves through my process of just trying different things.
Do you have sort of a way, like, do you sort of have this kind of a habit of doing the same sort of variations? Like, okay, I'll try this, twice as fast or twice as slow, or?
Yeah, I think there's a process there. I try to break away from the habits, so it allowed me to make some new discoveries.
Yeah.
But I try to slow it down, or I'll try different times, or I'll try in different keys, or I'll try different arrangement with my left hand. Who knows?
When you take your stuff to a band, are you do you do the arrangements, or do you let the band sort of do that? Or
the band arranges it.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll compose a song and I'll bring it to my other band, let's say Rob and Anthony in the Steve Koven Trio, and we've been working together so long that it would be an insult for me to say, this is what you need to do.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
Because the beauty of the band is the contribution of everybody.
Yes.
I'm just the leader because I got to get the gigs.
Right.
But do the guys ever come to the band? Like, does the bass player ever come to the band and say, look, I got this really cool lick on the bass. Can we develop a song out of this? Or do the songs always originate with you?
With me.
Okay.
Yeah, always originate with me, and then I bring it to them. This band, like I said, we've been together for almost 27 years, and we've rehearsed maybe a dozen times.
Right.
In that many years. It's usually on the stage or the best place to write is a corporate party. I swear to God, man. I mean, Rob Clutton, my bassist, and myself were at a corporate party years ago.
Yeah.
And we're wallpaper. Nobody's listening. So we kind of took, I think it was All the Things You Are, Jerome Kern, and we started approaching it as a descending line, very classical based. And from that came a magnificent product.
Wow.
So good that even, I won't mention any names, but the CBC said it was, this one gentleman who was important in the CBC said it was probably one of the most, what did he say, it was most thoughtful rendition he's ever heard. And that song's been recorded thousands of times.
Wow.
It was a unique approach. And what led to that is we were at a corporate party, no one's listening, so we're just exploring. We're improvising.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
That's amazing.
Jazz is an interesting thing. I'm really excited tonight because I'm a huge Vince Guaraldi fan. I'm a huge Brubeck fan. Although I think I might like the idea of Brubeck a bit more than actually some of his later stuff. But anyways,
I love Brubeck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Take 5 is just a masterpiece.
Wasn't Brubeck though. Take 5 was not Brubeck.
Well, you wrote it for his drummer, didn't he?
He didn't write it.
You didn't write it?
The saxophone player wrote it, Paul.
Oh.
Oh, Paul.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
He wrote it. Brubeck got it, but we've always associated Take 5 with Brubeck, but it wasn't his song.
Oh, right.
Like Miles.
That's why it's different than everything else on that album, maybe.
That album's amazing.
It's an amazing time.
And I actually work with his son at York University,
wow.
Matt Brubeck, and I teach together.
Ah, cool.
wow.
And we teach the contemporary improv course there.
Yeah.
And I've met Dave several times when he was alive, and I've seen him perform. He's an architect of sound, man.
Oh, yeah. But the thing with jazz, I mean, I've always said that jazz is in some ways, a very unforgiving music, because when you're playing rock and roll and punk, if you fail, sometimes you wind up doing something kind of interesting because your abilities aren't up there. But sometimes failed jazz can be tough. It's I think it's a very unforgiving kind of music.
Really?
Well, yeah, because great jazz seems so effortless. It's when you hear the masters do it, you go, oh, it's simple, but it's such a subtle, beautiful art.
Yeah, but you get something like a great jazz artist, let's say like Keith Jarrett, for example.
Yeah.
And he's doing a gig, and we're in the audience, and we're blown away.
Yeah.
I'm sure that guy goes backstage and goes, "Oh man, that wasn't a good night."
Yeah.
I went for a trip there.
He says, "Yeah,
I don't know if I get back.
I didn't like that." Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
But
hard to say.
on your your view of jazz I think there's a lot of room in any music to make quote unquote a mistake, and it's a portal to a new idea.
Yeah.
So it's really the artist. It's not the style of music. It's the artist that can interpret it and take it somewhere when it hits that wall.
Right.
And then usually that wall can be something that was even better than the song itself.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, some genres are probably a bit more forgiving. Like pop songs, especially nowadays, are so structured that you don't get to experiment as much as you can in jazz or even jam bands. Blues.
Or classical music.
Yeah, I suppose.
You can't venture out anywhere except for interpretation.
I guess,
Micro interpretations.
Yeah.
Why don't we actually hear the first song?
Yeah.
Sure.
So we got Eleuthera.
Yeah, so let's talk about this first one. What was the writing process on this?
It was inspired by a lot of my songs are inspired by my trips around the world. I do a lot of traveling with the band and with my wife, and I like going to foreign places because I meet new people, I try new food, I experience new climates, etc. And usually I try to come back and capture it in a song. So Eleuthera is a magical place. You guys know where Eleuthera is?
No,
You're not.
I thought it was some kind of disease.
I thought it was like a Greek. I thought it was like a Greek god or something. I wasn't sure.
It means freedom.
Okay, in which language?
In Eleutherine, I don't know. But it's an Outer Bahamas island. It's only it's a 20-minute bush plane fly from NASA to Eleuthera. It didn't get hit by the tornado. It just missed this place.
Oh, wow.
And it's an island, and I shouldn't say this on the radio because I don't want people to go there.
Right. So it's a horrible mosquito
Don't go
place.
there.
Yeah.
No, in reality, it's paradise. There's no one on the island.
Right.
Where can you go 4 hours from Toronto and be in paradise? I'm on a beach, a 2-mile beach with my wife, and you don't see maybe 3 people in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And this beach is phenomenal. Where can you go? So Eleuthera, I went there as an artist in a festival they produce every year. And I came back and I said to my wife, this place is magical. And I wanted to write a song that captured this energy of this island. And that's how I got the inspiration. And I wanted a kind of calypso or Latin feel, island feel.
What's the time signature on this one?
Well, it changes, but 7/8. There's a 4/4 section. I haven't heard it in a long time, so we can talk about it afterwards if you want.
All right. Well,
Start
let's
counting.
take a listen to it.
Snapping. Ole.
Wow.
Ole.
That's very nice.
By Steve Koven.
Yeah. Oh, I want to ask
Amazing.
you, so when you write a song like this one, how do you bring it into the band? In what form? Do you just play it for them? Is there anything written down?
Maybe a chord chart,
Yeah.
and maybe an MP3 sample of piano, and then sit down and a discussion, and then try
And then
several
rearrange
takes.
or they play it and play
Yeah,
around
I think
with it a
the
bit?
song was rearranged in the studio a little bit. Like we added the drum solo in there and extended it, and how we're going to end it, type of thing. So it's like a contribution that way.
Right. And a follow-up question, please.
Yeah, sure.
When you when you record,
Yeah.
especially jazz like this instrumental, how much of it is set in stone, and how much room when you're actually gone into the studio to record, do you leave room to improvise or to play around?
Usually, majority of the songs are all open for interpretation in the studio.
Right.
It's not like, we try. Sometimes we do something set in stone, and by the end of the session, after maybe take 6 or 4 or 8,
Right.
it's evolved into something else. Mm-hmm. So, but some songs are set in stone because they're pretty straightforward. I think this song, after we talked about it, was set in stone.
Right.
Like I didn't want to solo over it. I said, let's just
Right.
do this. You solo, and then we're going to end it.
Well, it has it has sort of a kind of a standard jazz structure in some ways. You have the da 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 da, and then there's sort of a variation da 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 da, and then so it seemed to have some sort of chordal center changes. So it's like a 1/4, 1/5 type thing, or
1/5 type.
Yeah, 1/4. I mean, it's basically rock and roll.
right?
Yeah.
Right? 1, 4, 5, and I went into the dominant 7 on the bridge, which
Yeah.
was inspired by a Yes album.
Right.
I don't know if you heard that at all. A little bit of
Yeah.
I wanted something progressive.
Right.
Right.
So I'll go to the 7, da 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 da. But it was over that harmonic change that it kind of gives a little progressive
Yeah.
flair, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was really sweet. Yeah, what'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, really, really interesting, funky. I was trying to find that time signature again, and
It is 7.
It is 7, but it's a little bit. I mean, I'm used to more pop rock, and I even do my fair share of progressive rock.
Yeah.
Too, which is often in odd time signatures, but it's usually very strong on the downbeat.
Well, like,
whereas this one you've got it. It's
more
a little
fluid.
bit. It's a little more fluid.
Yeah,
a
it's
little
not
bit looser.
it's not like Money from Pink Floyd, which is 7/8, right? Which
Yeah.
is really, you can count that.
You can
and
count it because
this one shifts over a little bit.
It's like on the offbeat, but
Yeah.
but very much a theme and variation piece, like sort of like a blues piece or like a
Totally.
like a pop song or a rock song in a lot of ways.
A lot of my songwriting is blues based because that's where I learned. I learned boogie and blues growing up,
Right.
and I listened to. I'm a '70s rock child.
Yes.
I like the Zeppelin 1 and all that. So
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I like to go back to those roots, and it's interesting. As I get older, I'm 56 years old. I'll be 56 in November, and I've been doing this a long time. And the older I get, the more I realize I don't want to sound. What's the word? Smart. I just want to sound pure and honest.
Oh, because you
want to play from
clever.
you want to
that's
play.
it. I'm
You
not
want to play
trying to
from
be
the
clever.
heart, not
Yeah.
from the head.
I want to write from the heart. I
Yeah.
want to play from the heart. And if people don't like it, I really don't care.
Right.
But
Yeah.
when I was starting out in this business, you're trying to be who you're not. And I
to
think
be
that we
clever.
trying to be clever. You're trying to, which is great too. You're trying to imitate things that you don't have the capacity to imitate.
Right.
So you're not really playing honestly. You're searching. But I think you reach a certain stage in your career as a composer, a performer, an entertainer, that you start to feel your niche and really what is honest. And that's how I try to write.
Do you try to write your melodies so that they're singable?
Yeah. I
Like,
try
does it
to
kinda
write a
hook you,
melody
right?
that's memorable.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of jazz, but some jazz,
It's out there.
it's out there. It's
can't sing the
it's
melody.
You can't
Yeah.
sing anything. It's like, it's discordant and it's all over. the
Yeah,
place, right?
and I try to write something that's. I was doing my master's thesis in composition at York. I went back to school when I was like in my late 40s, and I brought it to my master's advisor, and I had written all these compositions, and I said, "Man, they're kind of simple," and he looks at me, and he says, "They're not simple. They're elegant."
Yeah.
And it
Right.
really hit home
Yeah.
for me. And that really kind of put the nail on the head. Like, it can be not flashy, but also have something to say instead of sounding like a grade 1 rudimentary book.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, because there's a difference between simple and simplistic.
There
and,
is.
and there's also a difference between complex and complicated.
Yeah.
Right? Like you want complex and simple. You don't necessarily want complicated and clever and
Yeah,
just
no.
over the top,
So
right?
I think, and I have written many songs where I try to be complex or more complex than I'm able, and I pull them off. I don't play them anymore, and that says something. I don't remember them. Number one, I never scored them down, so I don't remember them. But usually, the songs that are more memorable and simplistic, I tend to gravitate towards.
I think it's easy for a musician to play the instrument and not play the song. And that's I think that's tough. I think that it does take a certain maturity with your instrument to realize that you're not there to show yourself off. You're there to make the song better. And sometimes if you're a drummer, that means going boom, chick, boom, boom,
right, just to
boom,
work
boom. Then that's what you do because that's what serves the song. Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether or not it's simple or you're bored because that's not your job.
That's right.
Your job is to serve, and it's a hard thing to understand.
Be part of the team and make it work. Bring this idea together at its best ability so you're not stealing the limelight or overpowering somebody or it's actually today I was teaching a student. I just came from teaching at York, and he was playing the song, and I said, you know what? You're playing the notes, but you're not playing the music. It's exactly what you said. Because what do you mean by that? I said, well, how come I can play a C like this, and when you play it, it doesn't sound as good? And when Keith Jarrett plays it, it doesn't sound as good as he sounds better than me, etc.
Right,
because we're bringing nuances and the subtleties, and that's what I think. That's what I think music's about. It's not about this. It's about how you approach it.
Yeah.
Well, there's technical proficiency, and then there's feeling.
And I think that's what happened. Towards the early 70s. I mean, there was different kind of branches. The early 70s, because that's the music I grew up on, and in some ways it was great. But there was sort of like some musicians kind of really went up their own butt for a while, and the music stuff just got way too like self-indulgent. And I mean that's what gave rise to punk. And thank God for them, because they just totally
simplify it, stripped it down,
and then you went, oh yeah, there's a song. It doesn't have to be like, and it's hard because when you spend all your time trying to master your instrument, it's hard to sort of leave that pursuit behind and just sort of say, okay, I'm just going to play the song, and it might require 2 notes.
That's right.
It's a tough thing to do.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah, and it's great. Like I love this this kind of jazz because it's very melodic, and I understand some of the more complex jazz when they're trying to pursue it, but they explode the chords so much that you can't follow the melody anymore. And if you're hearing the melody in your head, then that kind of exploded jazz, I always call it exploded jazz, makes more sense because you can follow along, and then you're hearing like all the harmonies that the lead player is doing with the main melody. But if you don't know the main melody, it just sounds like a bunch of people who aren't listening to each other.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I mean, like if you listen to something like Ornette Coleman, for example, free player, there's noise.
Yeah.
But what are you listening for? You're not listening for melody. You're listening for little particles that come out of this noise that become something.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But an untrained ear would just think it's just pure noise.
Yeah.
But an untrained ear will also hear Beethoven and think, this sounds all the same.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? So
you get more out of it if you know what you're listening for.
You need some knowledge, or or it might hit you for some reason you don't know why.
Yeah.
It just works.
Well, I mean, I remember back in my day, the first time I heard Nirvana, I was like, what is this trash? It's complete noise. And then it actually took me a while to get attuned to what they were doing.
Really?
Oh, for sure.
And the first time I heard it, it was like, what is this? This is terrible.
What are these kids
It's kind
doing?
of pop music, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's the same with any kind of music. You're right, with classical, with anything. And
you have to have an appreciation or a knowledge to really understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or not, and just appreciate it.
One thing I found is if you're in a musical situation and you think it's just like a whole bunch of noise or that people aren't listening to each other, this works amazingly well. Close your eyes while you listen to something.
Yeah.
It totally changes the experience. I had a friend who was really into completely free improv music, and it was it's actually it's not jazz. It's totally free improv, people making noise. And when you watch it, it's not that pleasant. But you close your eyes, it's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
When I play piano in performance, I don't open my eyes. Majority of the time, my eyes are closed.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't do it on purpose. That's what I do, and I just play.
All in C?
And I think all in C.
All in the white keys?
All in black keys, C. No, I just close my eyes.
One finger.
And usually that intenses your sense of hearing.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
And feel even.
Yeah.
And awareness. It's amazing. It's a really good. Close your eyes, you guys. Everybody out there, close your eyes now and listen to our voices.
I do that more when I'm singing than playing. I still have to kind of. Where's that chord?
You gotta go. What's the fretboard?
I need to, kind of check, make sure I'm playing the right note.
chord.
Well, it's interesting because I'll close my eyes, and if I hit quote unquote a wrong note, it doesn't bug me at all because that's just a new beginning to something new.
Right.
I'm open to that type of, that type of approach. If I hit a wrong note, I'm not worried because I'll just hey man, that's going to take me. Now I'm going to play more dissonant notes. Now I'm going to play more dissonant notes. Now I'm into something that is totally tangible. I'm in an area of dissonance. Right. And when I go back to the consonants, it's like tension and relief.
Okay, speaking of wrong notes, we're going to take a little bit of a break and we'll be right back.
Yeah, man.
For those of you just joining us, you missed a good half hour, but it's still going to be great now. You're listening to Song Talk Radio streaming on songtalk.ca, and tonight we're talking to jazz musician and composer and educator and world traveler Steve Koven. And don't forget, we love to hear from you, even during the show. So, send your thoughts and your questions to us at Song Talk Radio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or send an email to feedback at songtalk.ca. And, be sure to include your credit card numbers. And, we'll share your thoughts and we'll answer your questions here on the show. So, so feel free to text us and Twitter us and Facebook us and all that. And it'll add to the drama.
All that jazz.
So all that jazz. I want to get back to something Phil was saying about the sort of extended chords and things like that. Like the song we listened to before the break, it seemed like there wasn't too much harmonic craziness going on. It was very major minor, and you threw the dominant 7. Okay, that's
and interesting.
Very congruent that way.
It was very because in the jazz world, a jazz police will go, "Hey man, you're not playing a voicing."
Yeah.
And so it's
what's that mean? What's
the voicing is taking a chord and it's substituting the root for maybe a ninth, so it just has a more open sound, a different color.
Right.
A classical chord would be arpeggiating over the 1-3-5, 1-3-5,
right,
or 1-3-5-7, 1-3-5-7-1, etc. But a voicing is you get rid of the root and you'll add another element to it. Maybe the ninth or a 6 or a flat 6, and it just gives another color, tone. That's what we teach at the university. However, in that song we listened to, I don't think there's any voicings. I'm playing chords.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Because I really don't give a hoot. I just want to make music.
So do you have other songs? Yeah, you must have other songs that have voicings.
Oh, yeah. I got some pretty mainstream jazz, quote-unquote jazz songs, like a traditional approach. But recently I've kind of put that away and just say, I'm just going to make music. I don't care if I'm playing a voicing or not. I just want to create something that I like.
And you're remembering your songs more, they're more memorable, right?
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know if the voicing would make a difference about memorability, but it's more, I think the melody or just the overall feel or would make it more memorable.
So you think with Eleuthera you could introduce voicings into that and still have the strong melody?
It would have a different flavor.
Yeah. But the melody would
be the same. Melody doesn't change.
That's true.
It's just the accompaniment underneath it would have a different tone or different color. Mm-hmm.
So we got a tweet in. Please talk about.
It worked.
It worked.
Damn.
Please talk about 7/4. What is it?
So 7. Well, this song was sort of 7/8. So that means there's 7/8 notes to the
bar.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1,
Next
2,
bar.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Next
1, 2,
bar.
3, 4, 5. But see, when I'm doing that, I'm emphasizing the 1. In this song, the 1 was the kick drum was very light, and the piano thing came in on the and of 1.
It was shifting.
And it was shifted a little bit. So it was 1.
For the person who just tweeted 7/4, 7/8, 3/4, 4/4. These are time signatures that are set up to allow the music to have a certain amount of space between the bars before it shifts to the next bar.
It's just setting up the grid, basically.
Right.
3/4, for example, to that person would be a nice waltz.
1, 2, 3.
That's how it goes. Whereas 4/4 would be a rock tune, man.
But 7/8, which is so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3.
And it wasn't, and typically in pop rock or even progressive rocks, if they do a 7/4 song, for example, you could almost see it as a 4/4 followed by a 3/4.
Right.
Whereas in yours, it really was a 7 because there's no emphasis in the midpoint somewhere.
Right, but you could still count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
You could count it like that.
Or you can count it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. And when it becomes ambiguous like that, I just tend to say that it's actually a full 7.
You count it 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1,
Yeah,
2.
yeah, exactly.
And you know what? Think about Brubeck. We were talking about Brubeck.
Yeah.
That whole Time Out album, if you listen to that Time Out album, it's in all different time
Oh, yeah.
signatures.
Yeah.
And you would count them 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. You wouldn't count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like
Right.
Rondo a la Turk.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Da 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 da. And that he got after traveling to Turkey. He discovered it because Turkey had all this amazing music that had it in strange time signatures.
Right.
And he brought it back to America at a time that all the music was in 3 and 4, and most of the music, I should say.
Yeah.
And he threw this thing, and people are like, "What is that?" Well, it's Turkey, baby.
So do you find your travels do that for your music?
Totally.
Well, you just said this piece was totally
It was inspired by that.
But I got the sense from that it was like the beauty and the visuals. But I was talking about like working with musicians elsewhere in the world when you travel.
Oh yeah, oh, for sure. I mean, they'll inspire you because they're playing at a different time, and it's natural to them.
Yeah.
It's not natural. Seven's not natural to us North Americans.
No, it's really not.
Unless people have studied and internalized it.
Yeah.
But for them, it's just that's like their rock and roll.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? It's like, whoa, man, how'd you do that? Well, I learned that from when I was a baby.
Yeah.
That's how my heart
Damn,
beats.
I grew up in the wrong part of the world.
Do you gravitate to certain time signatures you find, or
No.
no?
I'll explore all different time signatures. 7, 8, 5, 7, 4, 7, 8, 5, 4, 5, 8, etc. More and more as I get older, I like to explore it. But 4, 4, and 3, 4, 6, 8 always feels really good.
Of course.
Yeah.
6, 8.
Yeah.
I like
6,
6, 8.
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gravitate for the 6, 8. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we're done.
11, 16.
11, 16.
Goodness gracious. Yeah, but it's the same sort of thing. Like when the melody's that strong, same thing with Take 5, the melody is king.
Yeah.
In that here, the melody is king. So the time signature doesn't pop out as, oh, this is an odd, funny time signature. Like it's clever, but it's kind of hidden.
Yeah, it's camouflaged.
Yeah.
Because you're listening to the melody and that, but yeah, I think so. But if you put your attention to the time, you'll know, like, this ain't a 4/4.
Yeah.
Because I can't dance to this. Yeah. You can't, Well, you can.
Yeah. Well, it's like Salisbury Hill, which is
7/4.
7/4.
is
Yeah.
7/4. Is it 7? I thought it was something weird. It was
7/4.
Today it's 7/4.
Okay.
It's 7/4. It's pretty 7/4.
It is.
But when in Salisbury Hill, he shifts from a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 in like the intro and the chorus, and the verse is like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's like he shifts the
is that what
the
it is?
midpoint emphasis, so it sounds like a little bit
That's
different.
What sounds
but
different. Right?
And Bill Evans was really great for listening to Bill Evans because you can hear him go from 4/4 to 3/4 like effortless.
Yeah.
And you can't even tell the difference, but there's a shift. And he does that a lot.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't explored wacky time signatures too much. I've done some, classical stuff, which isn't quite as pulsy as 4/4, but I haven't really done.
Well, Stravinsky, some pretty cool stuff going on there.
Yeah.
The Rite of Spring. 4/4, 7, 8, 13. I mean, like all over the place.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah, but again, as long as you let melody lead, then
I think melody rocks.
yeah,
It rules, baby.
it totally works.
There's one other thing that rules aside from melody, in my opinion. Well, rhythm, of course, is always
Groove,
up there.
yeah.
But texture.
Yes.
Right.
Texture, man. Like creating these swells, and so your ears are broadened not just to the melody or the groove, but it's broadened to these world of tones and colors, and that's it. Like you listen to you guys know the Black Star, the new Bowie album?
Yeah.
Or
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic.
fantastic. I've listened to it.
Now, what makes texture?
But more to the point, how do you explore that with piano, bass, and drums?
Easy, man.
Yeah.
Bass, well, acoustic bass.
Yes.
You have your arco. You have your bow.
Right.
You have your sliding. You can play the wood.
So really, you're talking about this literal sound of the instrument, the different sound you
Yeah,
can get out of an instrument.
or the production, or
Right.
like
The
you
sonic
want.
landscape.
Yeah, I mean, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like a painting. If you look at it, you got all beautiful shapes, but then you got all these tones and depth, and that's the textures, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the next song coming up, because, again, I'm, sort of a lot of the jazz I love is, from the, 60s and the 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And they have a certain sound, to the recordings, which because they did as best as they could. But do you ever have sort of the urge to kind of make this recordings kind of sound a bit more vintage? Because this next piece just sounds like it's right out of that time. It's a beautiful piece, and I love it. It's now in my rotation in my iTunes.
Really, Purple Inspiration.
Yeah, but it's like, did you ever have that inspiration to kind of make it sound like one of the old?
Yeah, once with the Steve Koven Trio, we recorded to 2-inch.
Oh, nice.
Tape, to thinking we would capture something old.
Right.
But nah.
Is it kind of lo-fiing it?
I don't know what it was. I just thought this would be cool to do. And, that's what they used to do in the olden days.
Yeah.
But they used to actually have a one microphone.
Right.
And really, I'd like to do it. I mean, remember, who was it? Cowboy Junkies.
Cowboy Junkies, the first album.
I was just on the plane. They were just playing. I was just in Amsterdam. They were playing in Amsterdam.
Really?
I didn't know they were still even around. But yeah, the first album was one mic in a church.
Yeah.
And it won all
Trinity
these...
Church.
Trinity Church.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, that would have been a nice, inexpensive budget to record that. I could have done that, for Christ's sake.
I love that stuff, It's
I love that.
Can you talk a little bit about where Purple Inspiration came from? What was the
sure
inspiration?
can, man. Purple Inspiration, it was a sad day. I was actually at the manicures, getting a manicure, and I'm watching on the TV, Prince died.
Oh, right.
And I had to go down that day and pick up my late mother at the hospital, who was very sick and passed away just a month later. Anyway, so I came home, and I wanted to write a song for both of them. I'm a Prince fan, but I'm not a crazy fan of his. I just think it's amazing, the stuff he does, his diversity and his range. So I wrote a song with him in mind and something from my mom. And that's what it is. Simple as that.
Hence the purple.
And it's a minor, has a depth of sadness to it. It's beautiful. It has an ending, as we'll hear, that is really inspired by Prince, something like Purple Rain, where it becomes almost like an anthem and grows and grows and grows. That's about it. That's the story, man.
Cool.
Give it a spin.
Spin.
we are back. That was Purple Inspiration, Steve. Now, this was not the trio. This was the collective.
This was the Steve Koven Collective. This is the Koven Collective.
The Koven Collective.
So
And
what's the difference there? The band is not the same guys from the trio.
Totally two different bands. In the Steve Koven trio, it's Anthony McKelly and Rob Clutton. Anthony on drums, Rob on bass. This Koven Collective was it's Sarah Thara on drums, and this was Peter Aristone on bass.
How do you decide what songs you're going to write for the trio and what songs you're going to write for the collective or any other project?
The collective was written because I decided to take a break from the trio.
Okay.
And come up with a new project. So that's done, and I worked on a second album with them, and now I'm going to be writing for my trio again.
Okay.
So it depends on what I want to do.
Right.
And does the instrumentation change? Like the trio is mostly acoustic, mostly a trio, but the collective can be electric, can have any number.
The collective had everything from you know Wild T, Tony Springer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony was on it. Tony's a good friend of mine. He played some guitar on it. My cousin from L.A. was playing cello on it. So I brought all these instruments into my studio and then overdubbed them.
Right.
But the trio is always just piano, bass, and drums. It's a traditional jazz trio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this song's in 4/4.
This was in 4/4. It's a poppy song.
It is quite a poppy song.
I can hear Prince singing it.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Yeah, so it's 4/4 straight ahead.
Yeah, it's got a bit of that theme and variation thing going on again, and it builds up. It does get a little chord extendy, dissonant towards the end before that very end.
Dissonant. I'm actually just slapping the piano.
Yeah.
There's just clusters.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, just blah blah blah. Because who cares?
Yeah. Well, that's what you want. You want that kind of...
That's what I wanted. I wanted to get that emotion. So what's the best thing? I'm not going to hit a nice chord tone. I'm going to slap it and have this cluster of noise.
Right.
And that's how I accomplish that texture.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's a change of moods.
Change of moods and all that, and then back.
And it'll never be the same on any take you do of that.
Nothing I do is the same in life. I really mean that. I'm not a conformist, and I live my life with as much spontaneity as I possibly can. Not just music, but everything. Because that's when you make some new discoveries, man. Mm-hmm. You know, if you stick too much in the box, it's safe and it's wonderful, but you miss out on potential disaster.
That's true.
And if you don't have disaster, how can you write a good song?
That's true. When life is going really smoothly, it can be hard to write because, you know.
Yeah, everything's so nice. Like, nobody wants to hear this stuff, man.
Yeah.
You know.
It's only when you get your heart broken.
There's a song about how I made my mortgage this month.
Yeah, I made my mortgage. I made scrambled eggs.
Everything's coming.
Yeah, I think Yesterday was originally titled Scrambled Eggs.
Yeah,
that's true.
Placeholder.
Well, that's what he said.
Placeholder lyric.
That's not like urban myth, or is that the truth? Huh?
That's true.
And Lennon says you can't call it. John, what are you doing? No, not John. Paul, what are you doing? You can't call it scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
Call it. What do I call it? Call it Yesterday. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Next Thursday? No, wait.
Next Thursday.
You know, it's an amazing because it is such an emotional lyric. I mean, and it's a beautiful. Everything about that song is a masterpiece, but such an emotional lyric, and the fact that he actually did write it from kind of an academic standpoint. You know, it wasn't like he was going through something. He actually just wrote this song from came up with this idea of Yesterday, and then how to write the song.
Mm-hmm. He had the melody, and then went about finding something to say.
Yeah.
And I think some people think, I have to be going through like this emotional turmoil to actually write something that's emotional, and that's not true.
No, it's definitely not true. I've written lots of songs that are emotional, but I wasn't in an emotional state. This last album, the songs that we're listening to off this album is really an album dedicated to my late mom. After she passed, I put together an album with songs for her, and so it's pretty meaningful. Mm-hmm. You know, yeah.
That's right. Now, how do you wind up getting your gigs? Do you work with a booking agent, or are you just
myself? No, I've always done it myself. One way that I end up touring a lot is I figured out I'm going to talk to the people in the embassies around the world. So I deal with a lot of Canadian embassies and high commissions, and
you just email them or something, or
I call them, man.
Really?
Call them. That's how I've gotten all over the world through embassies. They invite me to corporate gigs. They invited me to cultural events. There's a festival playing. There was a huge festival in Mexico called Cervantino. This is the largest festival in Latin America. It lasts 1 month throughout Mexico, and 3,000 acts come from around the world.
Wow.
But it's not just music. It's visual arts. It's dance, it's spoken word, etc., and the music. And the embassy chose the Steve Koven Trio to represent Canada in this festival.
Nice.
Wow.
And then so that happened there, and then I come home and I get a call from Ecuador. They heard about it. They saw it on TV, so we got invited down there. So that's the way I do it. I've always been my own producer, own manager. People have always said, get somebody to do it for you, Steve, and I would love to, but nobody's going to do it as well as me. You know what I mean? They really aren't.
Yeah.
And if they do, then you got to pay them a lot of money. And there's not a lot of money in this business. So then, you know.
Keeps the overhead low, keeps the money in your pocket.
I love growing up playing Risk.
Yeah.
Right.
The game. How to take over the world. So it's the same thing when you're doing business. Okay, what country do I want to go to? How am I going to get there? And you get there.
Yeah.
And then if you do a great job, you get asked back. We're going back to Mexico next month.
We've had guests on the show a few times where they've actually experienced a lot of trouble just trying to play in the U.S.
Yeah.
I don't play in the U.S.
Aha.
I don't even go to the U.S., but we will go. That's another show altogether.
Now, is that just because there's difficulties getting permits or getting work?
No, it's because every time I fly to the U.S., they pull me over and bring me in a little room. And they keep me there and harass me because they must know I'm a musician and I must smoke pot.
Oh, yeah.
And I say, hey, man, no, it's true. I avoid the U.S. I avoid the U.S. until things change. I'll go back.
Yeah.
I don't need to go. There's so many great places in this planet to go play.
Well, of course, right.
I love the U.S. Don't get me wrong. I love California. I love New York. I love New Orleans.
San
used to go
Francisco.
Oh, I've been to all these places. It just in the last couple of years, I avoid the U.S.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Well, there was an article. There has been an uptick in Canadians who are getting 5-year bans. At
Isn't
the
that
border.
bizarre?
5-year bans.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're just, and part of it is because pot
this
is
musicians
legal.
or in general?
No, pot is legal here, and so if you make the mistake of even saying that you have ever smoked dope,
that's it.
Or if
5-year ban.
you invest in pot companies, anything, they will use that to ban you for 5 years. It's been.
You buy a
getting
mutual
worse.
fund, and the mutual fund invests in a pot company.
Yeah, well,
That's right. They'll love it. They're American Mutual Fund.
You're gonna know.
You know, but we used to play at Rochester every year, and then 9/11 happened, and that's when we stopped. Everything changed, man.
Yeah.
The world's changed.
Yeah, that changed.
We don't want to
everything.
go there. We're talking about
Yeah.
music.
Yeah.
and that's what breaks down barriers.
So if you have any,
If
you have any
Seriously.
suggestions for like a young like jazz musician who's trying to sort of get out there and build his name and build his career, is there something that you've figured out along the way that you wish you knew?
Learn to teach,
Okay.
big time.
Yeah.
Spread your knowledge. It's a great profession, and it has some steady income.
Aside from that remunerative benefit, how's it how has it helped you as a musician yourself? Has it made you have to think through, or
Teaching is the best way to become a better teacher of yourself. Students teach the teacher about things.
Oh, yeah?
And for example, you have student 1 and student 2. Well, student 1 and 2 are going to learn different ways.
Totally different
So as
ways,
a teacher,
yeah.
I have to think of ways to communicate that idea to them so they get it. So it's made me more observant to people. It made me a better listener.
Well, it makes you more aware of your own processes too.
Because
Yeah,
it's so
100%.
interesting. Some people need to know the end goal and then work back. And then other people, they just want like step by step. Everyone learns in a different way. I did some teaching too, and it's...
Everyone learns in a different way.
You also have to put the knowledge into a different part of your brain. And I think that's a huge thing because it helps you understand stuff in a different kind of way.
Oh, totally.
You know?
Oh, totally.
Sort of more intellectualized or
how long have you been teaching?
Oh, I've been teaching since 1987.
Wow.
So I graduated in 87. I was teaching privately, and then when I finished York, I started a music school up in 90. That's still going 27 years, 30 years later. And then I started teaching at York in 2003. And I've been teaching at Centennial since another 5 years ago. So I do a lot of teaching. And I also do a lot of master classes when I go abroad. I taught in China, in Japan, Colombia, all over, because I go and I do a concert, and then I also add on a master class or a clinic. So you get the best of both worlds.
Nice.
It's another selling feature for those of you who want to get into the business.
That's a great idea, actually.
For sure, man.
Yeah.
And, talking about government, the government took away culture the last government we had.
Yes.
Took it away. Even the people in the embassies that were in the cultural division, the division is gone. They put them into education.
Oh,
so, and now hopefully,
which is so short-sighted because every dollar invested in the arts makes 3. Like there's some formula where it's it's a seed that grows.
It's weird, man. I don't know. We are culture. If we don't exploit that and work that, we're going to lose an identity in who we are, and that should be the focal point of one of the big focal
that's
points.
how you have a cultural identity.
Yeah, man.
That's a really amazing thing. Like, we're just calling up the embassies. I mean, if they have programs in place, if they have the infrastructure there, it's why not? You know?
Neil, think where you want to go on holiday, and call the embassy up. You might get lucky, and you might get paid to go there.
Yeah. That's true. All we can do is say no.
That's right. You've never tried.
Words
you never
of
know,
wisdom.
man.
That's right.
But you may hear some music. That means our time is up.
Yes,
that was
indeed.
wicked,
Band has
guys.
arrived.
Went by really
I know,
quickly,
so
didn't
much,
it?
2 songs went by crazy. I loved it. I loved it, man. Anytime you want me back, I'd love to shoot
absolutely.
you.
You
Yeah.
definitely.
Definitely
We got
have you back.
definitely.
I loved it. Thank you.
And
It's
that
our date.
that is all the time we have tonight on Song Talk Radio. Special thanks to our guest, Steve Koven.
Yes,
And where can our listeners find more about you and your music?
SteveKoven.com.
That's Koven.
.com or Google me.
Or yeah, that's what I did. Send us your impressions on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram on at Song Talk Radio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes, and please stop by the site songtalk.ca. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher.com, Spotify, Podcast Addict, probably many, many others. And don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter at songtalk.ca. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page on the website. And if you're in the Toronto area, please join us. Our next Song Talk meetup is on Thursday, October the 24th from 7 to 10 p.m. at the Transact Club. That's in the Bloor Spadina area of downtown Toronto.
You're hosting, aren't you?
I'm hosting that one.
It'll be a good one.
It's going to be a hoot. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. If you want to follow us, you can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil.
At the Phil Emery on Twitter.
You can follow Michael if he's on the radar.
Yes, you can.
All right.
Ooh,
He's on the
wow.
grid. He's on the grid.
I'm on Insta.
You're on Instagram.
Yeah, Proudfit420. And they gave me that. I didn't make it up.
Are you kidding me?
Seriously, that was the randomizer.
So basically
but I
you're-
post a photo a day.
So
they
basically, you're
gave me
never
photo.
getting into the U.S. is what you're trying to
It's
say.
basically what I'm saying. Of that Insta handle.
Me neither. I'm not going there either.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so
And
you can check me out on Instagram there.
Stop by the website songtalk.ca. .ca means Canadian. Thank
That's
you very much.
right.
And to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest, keep on writing.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good night, you guys. That
everyone.
was super.